Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be reviewing an album by the group from Ghana, Alostmen, and their new record, Kologo. Now listen, it's February, which means that it's Black History Month. And it's an interesting thing because if you're on any streaming services, like Tidal or Spotify or whatever, they'll have playlists for Black History Month. And next to the YouTube logo, it says BHM. But in a certain degree, who are we kidding? I mean, basically all music is black music at this point. All pop music is black music. I mean, I've done, 500 videos on this channel? Okay, maybe the video I did about Bach does not directly go back to musicians who are of African descent. But beyond that, any popular music in the West, any popular music that has its roots in jazz or blues or anything with a real drum beat goes back to the innovations of Africans and African Americans. This channel, despite my blinding whiteness, despite the whiteness of many acts that I review, is fundamentally a black music channel. And I think we need to remember that. We just need to remember that's where our music comes from. There's no other place that it comes from. Even the whitest music you can possibly think of, Vampire Weekend or James Taylor, it all goes back to black musicians. So this video is not technically a black history video any more than my Arlo Parks video was, right? Because all music that I review is fundamentally black music. But I do think it's interesting to study a group from Africa, from Ghana. Because what's interesting to see is the way that music from the New World influences and adapts music of the Old World. By the way, is it just me or do we not call Africa the Old World? Why is Africa not considered the Old World as much as Europe? I understand that the migrations were forced, but still, is it not the Old World? It should be the oldest world, in truth. So African music, I think, especially when it mixes together traditional elements and modern elements, has a lot of interest that we need to spend time focused on. Now, just last month, I reviewed a different group from Ghana, Kologo Smoke, who is a Ghanaian rapper. I had a lot of fun reviewing it. My ignorance was profound. That's the problem with world music. Music, not from the Western tradition or whatever, not pop, rock, hip-hop, techno, whatever. It's just my ignorance is so profound. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about music from Ghana. I don't know anything about Ghana culture. I know nothing. And my first reaction, like your first reaction probably is when confronted with complete ignorance, is to flee. Get me out of here. Wrap me in the warm comfort of Led Zeppelin and other things that I just understand and make me feel comfortable. When I was reviewing Kologo Smoke, I was fascinated by how familiar it was in its hip-hop and how alien it was in the African influences. So here I am reviewing a much more traditional album from Ghana. And you might be thinking, wow, Skye, 2 albums from Ghana in 1 month? I mean, I've only done 3 or 4 videos from artists from Africa, which is not very many out of the 500 that I've done. Why am I doing 2 of Ghana? Why didn't I pick another country? There's actually a very good album from Mali that came out. Well, this is one of my bigger points about Black History Month and about the question of diversity. I am a professor. By the way, I do not represent my college in these videos. I represent myself. I'm an individual. But when you are at a college, the word diversity is one of the big buzzwords on campus, as well it should be. The curriculum in college has, up until very recently, been very Eurocentric, very white, male, straight-centric. So diversity is a very important concept. You hear it everywhere you go. I have been on diversity committees. I have created courses which satisfy the general education requirement for diversity. I think about it constantly. But the problem is, and our goal as a society, as a civilization, is to not just respect diversity, but develop diversity. We need to take it seriously and consider what diversity really means. Is diversity seriously just black and white? Brown and lighter brown? Pink and somehow lighter pink? That's not what's interesting. That's not true diversity. In order to get to diversity, we need to get to the white within the white, the black within the black. Let's take the example of Native Americans. There's been a huge debate going for 30 years. What do Native Americans like to be called? Well, they don't call them Indians. Don't call them, First Nation. Don't call them this. I know one person who says this. I know one. They don't mind being called Indians. They don't mind being called Native American. Do you know what's the simplest answer? Just call them the name of their tribe. There is a specificity to each human being. They all have an actual group to which they belong, which is not imposed on them by outsiders. So if we think about African music, what the hell does that even mean, African music? Africa is a continent. If I just said European music to you, you'd laugh at me. Hell, if I said American music, you'd laugh at me. There's so much diversity within these areas that if we just think of one thing from Africa, we go, congratulations, we're diverse. No, the job is much greater. It is much greater. We must work to understand the differences in music within Ghana, as well as we understand the differences of music within California. Okay, I mean, at least that, right? I mean, you can tell the difference between if you're like an aficionado of music, you can tell when music is from Southern California or Northern California. Can we not do that, at least for another country? One of the countries that helped to birth all of the music that we listen to and make right now. So that's why I'm focusing on two groups from this one country. And listen, I'm a French teacher, so I don't even want to know about Ghana because it's not a francophone country. There's so many countries in Africa that would suit me to know more about because I will have more interaction with them in my life as a French professor. But that's not the burden of history. That's not the true burden of diversity. The true burden of diversity, which isn't a burden at all, it's a blessing, because I get to listen to music that's as good as this, is to confront these things which make me feel so ignorant. So allow me to share my ignorance with you, to share the process of listening to this music, the process of learning about it, and really the joy of learning about it. I do think Ghana is an interesting case because, as I mentioned in my previous video, it is one of the more economically successful countries in Africa. The social, political situation of Ghana is more stable, is more positive than in other parts of Africa. So I think that when we see two excellent albums coming out within the span of a month that somehow found their way into these pink ears is a pretty meaningful thing, right? I think it shows the cosmopolitan nature and the vibrance of the society. The album itself is called Kologo. Well, the name of the band is Alostmen, which is funny because it just means that they're lost. Like that actually means from English, Alostmen. Ghana was colonized by England, so there's a lot of English in this album. So Kologo is the name of the album. Do you know what a Kologo is? I didn't, so don't feel bad. Come with me. Come with me in my ignorance to tell you a Kologo is an instrument. A two-stringed instrument, like a guitar, like a lute. It turns out that if you look at Ghana, now I happen to have here my son's textbook, his history textbook for high school. There isn't much in here about Ghana. There's a little bit, which is good. In my textbook 30 years ago, there was nothing about Ghana. But if you see right there is Ghana. You see that right there, that little bit there. So just in that little bit, there's like at least 8 different regions and departments. So I studied rap from the South in my last review, actually from 2 different parts of the South. This is music from the North, of the Fra people. This is a totally different ethnic group, and Kologo is the instrument that is most closely associated with the Fra people. Alostmen is led by somebody whose name is spelled S-T-E-V-O. I don't know if that's pronounced Stevo or Stevo. I'm going to say Stevo. I apologize if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. And what's cool and interesting is he calls himself a neo-griot. Griot, or griot, depending on how you pronounce it, G-R-I-O-T, is the traditional storyteller of West Africa. The sort of hereditary role of a storyteller, historian, somebody who walks the earth and tells the history of the people while playing a Kologo, most often. What makes this album so interesting is it's electrified, and it's made into a very modern instrument. He uses an oil can to play. He makes his instrument out of an oil can, like a cooking oil. It's very, very cool looking. And this would be sort of like, if you could imagine, some European act, like taking the old court music or the troubadour music and getting a lute and making it into interesting, vibrant music. Now, what's great about this is this combination of traditional and new. So it is very traditional in the way he's playing a traditional instrument. Everyone else who's backing him up, there is someone on a goje fiddle, Goje, okay? So that's a very kind of small two-string fiddle that's played with a bow. There's two different drummers. One guy is from Nigeria and Ghana, so it's a very ethnically diverse group as well, and he's playing a talking drum, which, by the way, based on my research, take a guess. How many different names are there for talking drums? I'll let you think. 14. There are 14 different names for talking drums. That's how widespread talking drums are across the linguistic diversity of Africa. You want to talk about diversity? Linguistic diversity of Africa is enough to make your head spin. I believe in the language of this music, it would be called a dondo, but I don't know. I'll just call it a talking drum. And then finally, someone else who plays other percussion instruments, a djembe, a conga, and like a box as well. So here we have, two drummers and a total of 4 strings. But what's great about this is they're able to make this music great, this Kologo music, very well. I assume it's as good as any other Kologo music. It's electrified, it's a little bit more interesting, but there's one more element to the group, which is what makes this album and transforms it into something which, listen, if you can listen to it and not like it, fine. But I don't understand how you would not love this album. The only thing I think which would keep you from loving this album is how lost you feel. But please stay with me. And if you're lost, you'll just be one of the Alostmen. The other element of this group, beyond these 2 drummers and these 2 traditional instruments, is a producer, One Love the Kubolor. That's his name. Apparently Kubolor means like a truant or like a bad boy, basically. I think this is what transforms this album from what could be an interesting but repetitive, potentially traditional Ghanaian album into something more. He's like, this guy's like a rapper, and he also plays guitar. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He was born in Romania, of all places, but moved back to Ghana. But I think the main thing is that he is a producer. So every song has a co-writing credit between the producer and the player of the Kologo, Steve-O. And I think it's this dynamic that makes this album work so well. There's 12 tracks. It's a long album. It's like an hour-long album. And if you told me I'm going to listen to 12 tracks of traditional African music with 2 drummers and 4 strings total, I'd be like, all right, by the end I'm gonna be sort of, I get it. There's an amazing dynamism to this album where I'm never even close to bored. The songs don't sound the same at all. I don't know how they do it. They managed to do it where even though all of this music is as new to me as a fresh sheet of snow. Sorry, it's snowing outside my window again. I live in Rochester, not Ghana. Despite this total newness, it all feels distinct and interesting. Part of the way they do this, I believe, is they have a lot of guest rap artists on this album. Now, it's not at all a rap album, and when rappers are on here, it doesn't all of a sudden turn into some kind of weird trap or drill thing at all. It just stays a traditional thing with rappers rapping in an interesting way. At no point did I ever feel while listening to this, there's a feeling you can have as a non-African listening to African music where you start to feel like you're an anthropologist, like you're killing this thing that you're listening to, that you're like, your analytical eye is just killing the life out of this thing, and that you're so busy trying to be understanding and accepting and all these things that you're allowing this vibrant art form to die in your fingers, like a butterfly. You know how you can't touch a butterfly without hurting it? I never feel that way on this album. It never feels anthropological. It just feels totally vibrant and totally interesting the entire way through. It's interesting because the first half of the album all has guest stars. The second half of the album mostly doesn't. So it kind of goes between a sort of more new and then more traditional. So I'm going to give you my homework. Instead of playing any music for you on the channel, I make you watch a video that shows you what they are. Now this is funny, I don't usually do this. I'm going to show you a song that's not even on this album. I don't know why, but it's not. I'm going to put the link up here, and I'm going to have you watch this video. This is a performance of the band in a public market, and it shows the dynamism and the interest of the band. You see the Kologo being played with just an insanely strong lead. How this guy plays these two strings, I do not understand. The same way I am incapable of understanding the way that Jimi Hendrix plays guitar. I own a Stratocaster. I can play every single note that Jimi Hendrix plays, but I don't understand, when you watch him play, the way that his fingers move do not make sense. He looks as though he's moving his hand like that, and he's making all those sounds. I don't know how Steve-O makes these noises from these two strings, how he's able to have such a strong sound without even being electrified here. There's subtlety, and there's strength, and there's a ferocity to the way that he plays it. This is the first time I've ever listened to Kologo, but I imagine it is not played it has never been played as interestingly as it is played here. Meanwhile, we have both the drummers going, never too hard, never too flashy, just creating these interesting rhythms, very complicated rhythms that interact with each other. The goje fiddle player serves as the kind of, I don't know, is that how you pronounce it? Goji? I don't know. The fiddle player serving as a kind of calm middle ground, like bowing over his instrument. And then the voice. The voice of Steve-O, this is the thing which, when you pay attention to it, I don't understand most of the words on this album. Most of them, I think, are in fra-fra. I don't know. I don't have a fra-fra dictionary. The things that he does with his voice, he's able to yell, he has different ways of yelling, and the band has different ways of responding. He has a piercing quality to his voice that's never annoying. He's able to just do so much with his voice all the way throughout this album. I don't understand what's said, but I understand it through just the music, the way that he's singing it. And we see it all in this public market with people just walking by, the vibrance of the music, the communal nature of the music, it's all there. This guy, Steve-O Atambire, he is just clearly a star. It's a stupid thing to say, but not all lead singers are stars. There's another album I was going to review today by a different band from a totally different genre. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to say anything bad, but I saw them play while I was thinking about reviewing them. I was like, whoa, there's just no charisma here. The music's okay, but there's no here. This music is, this guy can sing, play, write, and move, and it's just so electrifying to watch him play. And when you listen to the music and the album all the way through, that's what you hear. I get the sense, though, that without that help of One Love, right, without this producer, the whole album would not have this great developed feel, this great mixture of New World and Old World sounds. God damn it, I love this album. Okay, I'm now going to quickly go through each track by track. It begins with a track called Kologo. So the album is named after the instrument. The first track is about it. It starts off with kind of goofy lyrics. Everybody put on your dancing shoes. It's a dance song all about him and his Kologo. These great African rhythms going back and forth that are so complex and baroque. Here's another question. Okay, question number one, why don't we call Africa the Old World? Number two, why don't we use the term baroque to apply to African rhythms? Right? I mean, polyphony and polyrhythms in European music is called baroque. Why are we afraid? Am I wrong? Are there music people out there who can tell me? I don't think of people ever using the term baroque to apply to African music. But that's how the rhythms are. You never know where they're going. They're amazingly complex, intertwined. At times they're at odds with each other, yet they all maintain some kind of cohesion. That's the beauty of baroque. That's the beauty of African rhythms. Anyway, and then a sort of kind of rap, kind of toasting kind of lyrics, and these lyrics are all about Kologo there before the banjo, Kologo there before the lute, Kologo there before the guitar. All about the primacy of Kologo, talking about the primacy of African music as well, right? That this is where it all comes from, fundamentally. And most interestingly, he says, Kologo there before Ghana. Before some Europeans came around with a Sharpie and just started drawing lines all over the place, telling you what countries were what in Africa, there were the people of Africa. And this is the ethnic theme of the album, the multi-ethnic theme of the album that goes beyond a sense of country and goes to the music, which I would argue is, it's interesting because the band is very consciously not just one ethnic group from Ghana. So it makes it humanist in that way. But then relying on the importance of music helps you to understand it's transcending nation, transcending ethnic group, arriving at the point which all great music does. It's a celebration of our humanity. Steve-O's success with the Kologo says as much about me as it does about another person from the Fra-Fra. It is a human triumph. This instrument, this expression of the instrument, is primal. It's great. It's awesome. Fairly slick production. You know, that's what's interesting is the album kind of goes between a sort of rustic feel and a fairly slick feel. That's part of the reason why I think it stays so dynamic. The next track is called Teach Me, where he's sort of talking about, you know, teach me how to fish and don't teach me how to chew, teach me how to make money, don't teach me how to spend. An interesting idea there, kind of over and over again. And then we have the first appearance of a sort of outside rapper to the group, someone from Nigeria called Billy, who comes in and raps at the end, helps to show this nice mixture between the old and the new. And then the Kologo comes in and actually nicely matches the melody of the song as well. Next track is called Fauzia. Probably the most approachable track on the album, the most kind of poppy, has a Ghanaian rapper, Ya Pono. What I like all the time about this is whenever there are these rappers, it doesn't feel strained. It doesn't feel like the rappers are straining to meet the needs of traditional music, and it doesn't feel like the traditional music is straining to meet the needs of rap. They're just together. It's not seamless, but they work well together. All the way throughout, these drums have this kind of trance-like feeling. I think the lyrics are about like a woman who's beautiful and makes you do things you wouldn't normally do. There is kind of a trance feel to this album a lot, just because the rhythms and the Kologo is often very repetitive. A couple, you know, has to be fairly minimal just with the two strings, and it kind of like gets you in a sort of mindset with these different rhythms happening at different times in different spaces, and often the songs are very long. But it's never quite like a meditation trance, right? It's never just like, I'm so transported. It's a fairly like active trance. It's quite good. Minus Me, totally different. So like out of nowhere, this song comes on with these like very strong horns. It's basically a funk track. Now, based on my research that I did thanks to this video, me learning about the true diversity of not just African music, but Ghanaian music, is that there's a genre of music that is popular in Ghana called high life, which is kind of a funk jazz music which has been popular for over 50 years. And Amboli, the guest appearance, is one of the stars of high life, one of the people who helped to bring hip-hop into high life. Just, you know, a true legend of music who I have never heard of, would have lived the rest of my hopefully long life having never heard of if I didn't stumble on this album. But it's just great. Just the rhythmic structures of this music underneath are just really strong, and these Western instruments like you know, the jazz horns and like multiple guitars mixing together with the African instruments here. It's all here. It just cooks along. It just rules. It's just great. And then we have all these ad-libs, which actually remind me a lot of the Afro-trap ad-libs from France, which came originally from Africa, but nice kind of rhythmic cha-cha-cha-cha ad-libs. It's just great. Next track, Do Good, this is more fiddle-based, more gauche. It has kind of like almost like a loop with some weird synthesized sounds. So this song feels like it came from a totally different album. Another big Ghanaian rapper, Medikal, comes on here, sounds almost like a reggae singer, weird synthesizers, and even a drum machine. How are you going to have two drummers and then put a drum machine on it? This is the genius, what must be, of One Love. To make an album, a traditional album with a traditional cover and traditional instruments, but then had this very odd song which breaks up the rhythm. This appears to be the end of the first half of the album. It goes the furthest out it's possibly going to go towards the new world, towards different sounds and synthesizers and drum machines, and then bam! Baiti. The next song is just Steve-O. By himself, with a Kologo. I don't know how he's making so much noise. This is like, I don't know, like, it reminds me of watching Son House or something, where like, how is just one person making so much noise, making such a full sound? It's just him playing the Kologo and rhythmically hitting it at the same time. What someone can do with one instrument, it is amazing. And it's the genius of this album, to go from into this baiti. I apologize for that clap if it was too loud. Look how red my hands are. I'm really excited about this album. It's great. Next track is called Carry Me Go. The full band is back. Actually, more than the full band. There's actually some guitar work, I assume by One Love. Native language, but like with the English chorus. The bridge has a beautiful voice at the end. It might be this appearance by Eli Music. All the way throughout, there's like almost like a throat singer in the back. There might be some throat singing on this album. I don't know. Next track is called Tonga, which if you're into the more of a trancey vibe, that's the track for you. A little bit like nice kind of element of variation within with the voice, doing some ya ta ta ta, like punctuated vocal work there. Next track is called Killer Fear Die, which is just a great title, first of all. I'm just going to say it again. Killer Fear Die. The idea that someone who kills is afraid of death. Beautiful, right? I don't know the rest of the lyrics of this album. I just don't understand them. My ignorance is profound. But this tells me a lot about their songwriting, because it seems to be a fairly political song. Beautiful, repetitive lyrics with call and response between Steve-O with his amazing ability to call out. And you watch that video I made you watch, right? You see the strength of his voice and how good the rest of his band is at responding. Just beautiful song, and they even let it ride at the end. Just this beautiful groove at the end. Lorogo is the next track, and here the importance of the electric nature of the Kologo is very important because it's plugged in, it's very clearly electric Kologo, and the vocal dynamics of Steve-O are just outstanding. He yells and whispers and responds. It's almost conversational. Strong kasaba in the back. I believe that's One Love who's doing that as well. Just all the layers of Kologos in here, all I assume in the Fra language. I can't pick a favorite track on the album. This might be it though, but there's so many that are good. Atugba, the vocalist, is even more different this time. This is much more fiddle based as well. This is cool because they really sync the vocals like on the beat, so the syllables match the beat. A great attack on the voice, and then there's a little bit of in the back as well. It's beautiful. The last track is called Baba, and I understood something here. Okay, I understood something in the song about fish. This song is about changing your position. But the thing is, what they do is that they just kind of, and this happened a lot in Quack You Smoke as well, even when they rap in English or speak in English, they'll just mix in their native dialect at the same time. This is not for me. This music is not for me. This music is for people who are fluent in both languages and are able to go in between them and use the expressive qualities of both language. As somebody who studied French rap as much as I have, this is an essential element of rap that is not in English. The linguistic richness of the ability to go in between different languages to communicate different things is essential. But this seems to be just about like having a big house and trying to get a big house and the pitfalls of money. Again, the Kologo's electrified, just amazing dynamics in his voice. An actual bass guitar makes its way into this song, which is weird. I almost didn't want it, but it was there. This is by far the most produced track. At times the album feels like it's recorded in a bathroom. At times it feels like it's recorded in a professional studio. In every case, the dynamics of the album work perfectly so that when we arrive at the end of the album, we're not ready for it to be finished. It builds layers over layers. The Kologo has like a loop over it. And then these noodly guitars over the Kologo. New instruments, new world, old world, the whole thing all together. Now there are 2 more tracks on the album technically. These are remixes of earlier tracks called the Ghana Mix. I might have viewers from Ghana. If you are from Ghana, what the hell does it mean when it says Ghana Mix? I had a couple of these on the Quack You Smoke as well. I looked it up on the internet. So I'm not going to review these because I don't know what Ghana Mix means. And I've already reviewed the songs and they're great. So there you go. There's my challenge to you. If you don't know anything about this, if you are like me and you are scared of not understanding, just listen. I think you'll understand it. It is beautiful, it is rich, and it's really fun. Okay, well, for the authors of this book, it turns out one of the authors of this book taught at the school where I teach. It's pretty weird. Pretty weird. There's the camera.